I still remember the restaurant. The soft clink of wine glasses. The scent of rosemary and seared butter. The way the candlelight flickered between us, throwing gold against his cheekbones as he smiled like a man with a secret. It was supposed to be our night. A rare break from the grind. A little luxury before the new work cycle swallowed us again. We hadn't been out in weeks, and Ethan had made a reservation at my favorite place downtown. He even wore the watch I'd given him for our anniversary, something he rarely remembered to do. At first, everything felt perfect. Easy. We laughed like we used to. He ordered my usual for me, even remembered to skip the garlic. I thought, maybe we're finding our rhythm again. But then I saw her. Across the room. At the bar. Wearing red. And Ethan went silent. He didn't say her name at first. Just watched her from across the table like someone trying to remember the rules to a game he hadn't played in years. I turned to look. She was stunning, of course. The kind of woman who knows how to pause a room without trying. Long curls, wine-red lipstick, laughing at something the bartender said like the world was already hers. "Who's that?" I asked, already knowing the answer in the pit of my stomach. Ethan looked down at his glass. "Her name's Camilla," he said. "We used to see each other. Years ago." I nodded, trying to swallow the chill that ran down my spine. Seconds later, she spotted him. And everything changed. She didn't just wave. She glided over. Like she belonged. Like she knew she'd be welcome. "Ethan," she purred, her voice smooth and venomous. "You look incredible." And then she turned to me. "And you must be the wife." There was something in the way she said wife, like it was a consolation prize. A title worn after the story had already ended for him and begun for someone else. Ethan stood up to greet her. He didn't have to. He shouldn't have. But he did. They talked. Right there. At our table. He asked what she was doing in town, how long she was staying. She answered too easily, too warmly, as if she hadn't just bulldozed into the first moment of peace we'd had in weeks. I should have said something. I should have ended it there. But I didn't. Because I was too busy watching his face light up in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. When she finally walked away, I asked him, "Do you still have feelings for her?" His response? A long silence. Then, she was important to me once. That night, when the check came, he paid quickly and then excused himself to walk her to her car. He didn't come back for 20 minutes. When he did, he wouldn't meet my eyes. And I knew. I had lost something that night. Not because Camilla had returned, but because he let her in. After that dinner, something shifted. It wasn't just a bad evening or a strange coincidence. It was the start of a slow unraveling. One thread at a time, until everything we'd stitched together came undone. Ethan swore nothing happened. He brushed it off like I was being overly sensitive. It was just a coincidence, he said. She happened to be in town. I was just being polite. But he didn't look me in the eye when he said it. And I didn't sleep that night. It started with small things. Missed calls. Texts he wouldn't let me see. Nights where he stayed in the other room, claiming work emails or late meetings. His phone was suddenly always face down, notifications silenced. Things that had never mattered before now felt like secrets screaming at me from the dark. And then, she started calling. At first, it was during the day. A quick call here, a voicemail there. He'd pick up, step out, and I'd pretend not to notice how long he was gone. But then she started calling late. 10 p.m. 11:30. Once at 1:17 in the morning. I woke up to see the screen glow beside him, Camilla, and he silenced it without a word, turning over and pretending to sleep. I confronted him. "Why is she calling at night?" He rolled his eyes. "She's going through some things. I'm just being there for her." "It's not what you think." But I was thinking. I was thinking about how her lipstick had matched the wine that night. How her voice wrapped around his name like it had never stopped belonging to her. How his hands trembled slightly when she touched his arm. I told him I was uncomfortable. That her presence was invasive. That I felt like a third wheel in my own marriage. He sighed, actually sighed, and told me I was letting jealousy cloud my judgment. That I was reading into things. That I was projecting my own insecurities. And for a moment, I doubted myself. Because that's what emotional erosion does. It doesn't happen all at once. It chips away in tiny pieces, whispering that maybe you're the problem. But then I checked the call logs. And found a pattern. She called nearly every night for the past 2 weeks. Every night he said he was working late. Every night he fell asleep with a strange peace, while I stared at the ceiling wondering if I was slowly going insane. And just like that, my doubt hardened into something else. Not anger. Not yet. But the realization that love doesn't hide behind silenced phones and midnight conversations with someone who once broke your heart. Love doesn't gaslight. Love doesn't blame you for noticing what's real. And I was done pretending this wasn't real. I hadn't planned to do it. I didn't want to be that person, the one who sneaks around, who digs through messages, who violates trust to find out if it's already been broken. But sometimes, silence is the loudest red flag of all. That night, he came home late again. Said he had dinner with a coworker. He smelled like a different perfume, not mine, not anything I owned. He kissed my cheek like a stranger and headed straight for the shower. He left his phone on the nightstand. Unlocked. I stared at it for a full minute. I told myself I wouldn't open it, but I already knew I would. Because when someone stops protecting you and starts protecting someone else, the game changes. The truth was no longer optional. I opened the message thread. Camilla's name. No emoji. Just a name. But the messages? They were endless. Photos of her, in front of a fireplace I didn't recognize. One of her in a silk robe. Captioned, "This made me think of you." Voice notes where she said things like, "You never looked at her the way you looked at me." Memes. Flirty jokes. A long message about how it still doesn't feel right seeing you with someone else. And then, the one that broke me. A selfie of Ethan, lying shirtless in bed. The timestamp? The same night he told me he was staying at the office late because of a broken server. I felt my hands go numb. I scrolled further, needing to know how deep it went. And there it was. A voice memo from him. For seconds long. Just a whisper. "I miss you too." I didn't cry. Not yet. I just set the phone down, walked to the bathroom, and stood outside the door as the shower ran. I stared at the handle, listening to the sound of water hitting tile, and thought, he's in there washing her off him. He came out 10 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, humming to himself. I looked him in the eye. He froze. He knew. He could see it in my face. "What?" he asked softly, like we were still playing pretend. I said nothing. Just walked past him. Picked up the phone. Held it out. "Camilla sends her love," I said. And left the room. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I laid on the couch in the guest room, wrapped in a blanket that suddenly smelled too much like him. And for the first time, I accepted that I wasn't crazy. I was right. And being right never hurt so much. I woke up to silence. No apology. No explanation. No attempt at denial. Ethan had slept in the bedroom. I hadn't heard a sound from him all night, but I knew he wasn't tossing or turning like I was. No, men like him sleep fine after betrayal. It's the betrayed who lie awake, trying to stitch themselves back together with invisible thread. By morning, I was already folding clothes into a suitcase. Not out of rage. Out of clarity. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. I was halfway through gathering my charger when he appeared in the doorway. His hair was a mess, his face pale. He looked smaller somehow. Like a man who'd lost control of a story he thought he was narrating. "You're leaving?" he asked, voice dry. I didn't look up. "You expected me to stay?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "It wasn't what you think." I zipped the suitcase closed. That excuse stopped working after the third voicemail. He walked in slowly, sat on the edge of the bed like he needed it to keep him grounded. "There's something I need to tell you." I crossed my arms. "If it's about the affair, you're late." He shook his head. "It's about Camilla." That name again. Said with a kind of reverence that made my stomach twist. "She didn't just show up to dinner that night. She didn't happen to be in town," he said. My pulse slowed. "What are you saying?" He looked down. "She reached out to me 6 months ago. Said she'd been in therapy. That she was healing. She asked if I'd talk to her, just once, for closure." I stared at him. "And you agreed?" He nodded. "I didn't tell you because I didn't think it would go anywhere. But it did go somewhere," I snapped. "Straight into our marriage." He stood up, agitated now. "She said things I hadn't heard in years, Julia. She remembered versions of me that I forgot existed. I felt seen. That word. Seen. Not loved. Not valued. Just seen, like I had been invisible all along." I grabbed the suitcase handle. Then he said it. "She wants a child." I stopped. "What?" "She told me she wants to start over. She thinks we could raise a family together." My mouth went dry. "You're telling me she came back into your life with a plan?" He didn't answer. Because that was the answer. She hadn't just reappeared. She had calculated it, targeted it, and he walked straight into it. I let go of the suitcase handle, just for a moment. Because now I wasn't just heartbroken. I was furious. She didn't just steal my husband. She dismantled me, one piece at a time, with surgical precision. And he let her do it. He handed her the scalpel. I walked out that afternoon. No dramatic goodbye. No final argument. No begging or pleading from him. Just the dull slam of the door and the sound of my keys hitting the bottom of my purse as I walked to my car with everything I could carry. He didn't follow me. He didn't stop me. That silence was its own kind of cruelty. I spent the first night at my sister's place. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a blanket and sat next to me on the couch while I stared at the muted TV screen and felt everything and nothing all at once. The next morning, I went back to the apartment to grab a few forgotten things: my passport, a favorite sweater, a framed photo of my mother that had been sitting on the windowsill for months. I still had the key, but when I opened the door, the air had changed. Her perfume was the first thing I noticed. Sweet, expensive, deliberate. The second thing? A suitcase by the hallway closet. Not mine. Not his. Hers. I stepped inside slowly, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. The lights were on. The kitchen was clean, cleaner than he ever kept it. The living room? Her purse was sitting on the couch, her scarf draped across the backrest like a flag planted in conquered territory. I walked toward the bedroom, and there she was, Camilla, in my bathrobe, standing in front of the full-length mirror, applying lip gloss like she had lived there forever. She didn't flinch when she saw me, didn't apologize, didn't pretend. She simply smiled. "Oh, I thought you'd already come by earlier." That's all she said, like we were acquaintances, like I hadn't shared a bed in this room just 3 days ago. I stared at her, stunned into silence. "You left," she added, as if it were a justification. So I figured it was safe. Safe. Safe to move in. Safe to slide into my life like it was a dress she'd been waiting to try on. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Then I saw it. On the nightstand. The photo of Ethan and me from our engagement party. The one we'd kept framed next to the bed. It was gone. Replaced with a different frame. A picture of her and Ethan. Taken last week. I felt something break inside me. Something quiet and deep and final. "You really planned all this, didn't you?" I said. She raised an eyebrow. "I didn't have to plan anything, Julia. I just waited for him to realize who he actually wanted. And that's when I knew. She wasn't just a mistake. She was a choice. His. And he made it the second he let her in and didn't shut the door." I moved in with my sister for a while. It wasn't glamorous. A small guest room, barely enough space for my suitcases, a shared bathroom with peeling paint and a broken cabinet door. But it was safe. It was real. And it was mine. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. No perfume laced through the air that didn't belong to me. No strange lipstick marks on my wine glasses. No silence that crackled like unspoken lies. I filled my days with structure. Mornings at a local yoga studio. Evenings helping my sister cook simple dinners. I read. I walked. I finally started returning the calls I'd been ignoring from friends who didn't know what to say, but refused to let me disappear. It was healing, slowly, painfully, until she found a new way to dig her claws in. One afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I nearly ignored it, but something told me to answer. "Hello." There was a pause on the line, then a soft, cautious voice. "Julia? This is Margaret, Camilla's mother." I sat up straight, suddenly ice cold. I hadn't heard that name in years. Margaret had once sent us a bottle of wine for our wedding, back when Camilla was just a name in Ethan's past. I cleared my throat. "I don't know what you want, but I'm not interested in being part of her game." Her voice wavered. "She told me what happened. That you left. That she and Ethan are together now." "Together?" I said, almost laughing. "She moved in with him 3 days after I walked out." There was a pause again. She didn't tell me that part. I bit my tongue, ready to end the call. Then she added, "I called because I want to apologize. For her." Now I was silent. She continued, "I raised her better than this. I know you probably don't believe that, but I did. Camilla was always intense. Always wanted what she couldn't have. But I never thought she would destroy someone else's marriage to prove a point." My voice was barely above a whisper. "Then why are you calling me?" She sighed. "Because I know my daughter. And if she feels like she's won, she won't stop. I thought maybe, if I warned you, you'd understand what she's doing now isn't about Ethan. It's about you. She's obsessed with replacing you." I didn't know what to say. I felt sick. This wasn't just some tangled romance. This wasn't about love or fate or mischances. It was about me. It had always been about me. I wasn't just a casualty. I was the target. And that's when I realized I couldn't just walk away and heal. I had to stand up. I had to fight back. Because if I didn't, she would keep rewriting the story of my life until even I forgot how it began. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't send 1,000 angry texts or slash anyone's tires or show up unannounced. What I did was quieter, sharper, and it cut far deeper. After that call with Camilla's mother, something in me solidified. I stopped pacing. I stopped crying. I stopped asking why. I already knew the why. This was never about love. This was a performance, a rivalry, an obsession. I was the mirror she couldn't break without standing inside the shards herself. So I sat down at my sister's dining table, opened my laptop, and wrote a letter. Not to Ethan, not to Camilla, to both of them. I typed, calmly, deliberately, subject line, in case you mistook my silence for consent. Ethan, I want you to remember that you were the one who brought her back in. That you decided her memories of you were more meaningful than the life we built together. I didn't lose you. You lost me. And Camilla, if you're reading this over his shoulder, which I suspect you are, I want to thank you. You've shown me what I never wanted to believe, that loyalty can be unreciprocated. That love can be one-sided. That people really can sleep beside you while slowly replacing you. But you know what else you've done? You've freed me. Because now, I don't owe anyone explanations. I don't have to shrink myself to make room for someone else's fantasy. I don't have to beg to be chosen. You chose each other. May that choice be enough. Because I'm finally choosing me. Julia. I didn't send it right away. I let it sit in my drafts overnight. And in the morning, I reread it. Not a single word needed changing. I hit send. I didn't wait for a response. There wasn't going to be one. Because nothing ruins a narcissist's victory faster than realizing you're no longer playing the game. 6 months. That's how long it took for the fog to lift. For my heartbeat to stop stuttering every time a red lipsticked woman entered a room. For me to sit across from a man at lunch without wondering who he secretly wished I was. I didn't fall in love again. Not yet. But I began falling back in love with myself. I got my own place, a tiny loft above a bookstore, with old wooden beams and windows that creaked in the morning. I painted the walls sage green. I filled it with plants and silence and music I didn't have to turn down for anyone. I stopped waiting for closure. And then life, in its strange, cruel way, gave it to me anyway. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was walking home from the bakery, umbrella tucked under one arm, paper bag of croissants clutched in the other, when I saw him. Ethan, standing on the other side of the crosswalk, staring down at his phone. He looked older, tired, not in the way that time ages someone, but in the way regret erodes them. He looked up. Our eyes met. He froze. And for the first time, I didn't. I kept walking, right past him. No hesitation. But then I heard him say, almost breathless, Julia, wait. I paused, just long enough to turn my head. He took a step toward me. No Camilla in sight. No ring. No smile. Just a hollow man holding the ghost of everything he gave away. I didn't know what I had, he said. I tilted my head. No, Ethan. You did. You just didn't want it. He swallowed. She left. I nodded. Of course she did. She got what she came for, to win. And once the game was over, you were just a trophy she didn't want to dust. He opened his mouth. Closed it again. I'm sorry. I know, I said. And I meant it. I didn't hate him anymore. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't standing in that conversation as the girl he broke. I was standing there as the woman who had rebuilt herself, piece by painful piece, and finally realized that closure doesn't come from apologies. It comes from peace. And I had found mine. So I smiled. Softly. Then turned and walked away. This time for good.